तक जंग रहेगी, भारत की बर्बादी तक जंग रहेगी, भारत की बर्बादी तक।
फ्रीडम ऑफ एक्सप्रेशन की आवाज को मजबूत करते हुए इस संघर्ष को आगे बढ़ाएगा। संघर्ष करेंगे, जीतेंगे और देश के गद्दारों को परास्त करेंगे।
From a youth point of view, I see that student movements in India, largely over the last decade, have been isolated protests. There has not been a very student movement as such. There have been instances where the Nirbhaya rape case, these instances have brought everybody out on the streets. So why do you assume or theorize that the government is going into institutions and creating some kind of monolith educational structure or wanting to create that? Why do you think so?
There are two reasons for this. One, apart from the sort of mass movements that you see, for example, the anti-corruption movement or the anti-rape movement, apart from those, the government is routinely, on a daily basis, sometimes they are diluting labor laws, they are bringing in land acquisition, they are having these campaigns on love jihad and ghar wapsi. At times the women and child minister says that sex determination should be made compulsory for every pregnant woman. You know, this kind of thing is happening on a daily basis, and on a daily basis it's universities like JNU and HCU which are challenging these things. And overall, I mean, the government cannot have its way until it sort of infiltrates the course curriculum. That is where the real indoctrination happens. I mean, you spend 10 to 12 years in a school, 3 to 4 years in a university, and it's really there that the government, you know, wants the institutions have no autonomy at all and impose their own kind of thinking. You see this in the way they are altering history. You know, the first thing that the government did was make Y. Sudarshan Rao the chairperson of the Indian Council of Historical Research. This is a very specific attack on history. They want to sort of alter the history because these people have had no place in the history. I mean, RSS has been absent from the freedom struggle. If anything, they were sort of, you know, seeking apologies from the British, seeking favors from the British, and that is the kind of history they want to hide now. They want to show Ambedkar as a Hindu fanatic. I mean, the other day you had a news where this person has said that Ambedkar wanted a Hindu Rashtra. You know, that is absurd. And they want to have a society where you know, Bhagat Singh is portrayed as a saffron icon, whereas he was he was a communist, he was an atheist. And this is the kind of distortion they are doing everywhere. And these universities like HCU and JNU, you know, which present a subaltern history, which present a critical reading of the history, these really stand in the way of this government.
Starting with JNU and then NIT within a few months of each other, what is the common theme that you see in both these struggles or these attacks, as you so termed it?
What is definitely common is the way in which police entered these campuses, and this is something that is quite unprecedented. I mean, I've studied in both NIT Srinagar and I've studied in JNU as well, and I've never seen this kind of thing. I've never seen the police actually entering the campuses, and this is something that's happening particularly with the coming of the Modi government. Very particularly, you saw police entering repeatedly FTII, arresting students there, sometimes on frivolous charges. In HCU, we saw how police unleashed brutalities and arrested people, you know, left, right and center. In JNU, the same thing happened, and then it happened in NIT Srinagar. So, you know, it's a whole continuity. The government wants to establish that, you know, among students, it really wants to strike terror among students, really say that we are really tough on students, and that is the kind of thing, you know, that otherwise there is no purpose of, you know, giving entry to police in the campuses. The university campuses, the college campuses always had some kind of autonomy. But right now, the autonomy of university campuses is really crumbling down under the weight of this government. And the government is really vandalizing the autonomy of institutions, turning administrations into puppet administrations, giving directions to them how they should run the, you know, before this, the government only had a formal role in institutions. So, for example, the President of India is the Chancellor of all the central universities. But now this is, you know, perhaps for the first time, perhaps apart from emergency time, that the government is playing a substantive role in the universities, you know, dictating what the curriculum will be, dictating what courses will be taught, dictating what syllabus will be there, what you can say in the class, what you cannot say in the class. There is a sort of militarization of campuses happening.
Why are you traveling across India, and what is the aim of these speeches or your presence over here? Like you're in Mumbai today and you're in other places also.
To be quite honest, we haven't really done anything in this. People all over the country want to hear from us. They are supporting us, and I mean, if you see in Bangalore, when I one of the first places actually I visited was Bangalore, and there a girl, she hugged me and she cried because her parents were BJP supporters. She wanted to support JNU people, but you know, there was no one she knew from JNU, you know, who she could support. But hearing all those things from me, you know, asking questions, clarifying things with me, she really, you know, she got convinced that, you know, she was right, her belief was right. The other day I had a person from RSS calling me saying that, you know, I have left the RSS because, you know, I really support you guys and it has opened my eyes. So people from everywhere are very keen to support JNU because JNU has rendered support to all of these movements. So honestly, none of these functions is something that we organized. We have been called by people all across the country.
The left has greatly diminished in India in terms of voter base, in terms of its representation in parliament. Do you not fear that you will be hijacked and your ideas will be hijacked or for the left's benefit? Because they are in a way reclaiming their voter base that existed a decade earlier and have lost. And you or Kanhaiya and the way you all approach politics is a way of reclaiming their voter base.
See, we are parts of the left movement. I mean, all of the analysis that we, I mean, why is it that people find Kanhaiya's speeches or my speeches remarkably revolutionary or something? It's not something that comes from isolation, or it's not something that comes naturally or something. I mean, it's part of our training in the communist movement, I would say. You know, we maintain differences, you know, because it's quite odd for me to say that the left shouldn't appropriate it because I'm myself a left supporter. We maintain our differences. For example, on many issues, like we can differ from Kanhaiya, or Kanhaiya can differ with me, or we can differ with, say, the 1984 statement that Kanhaiya made. We have differences, like the party lines are different on those issues, for example. But you know, saying that this would be appropriated by the left, I don't think that would be correct, because we, at least I for one, don't shy away from my left leanings.
Across India, are there structural changes that you're aiming for when you're calling for action on Rohit's case specifically?
So the thing is, I mean, see, if you see what happens in the law in this country is it's not very neutrally applied. We have seen several massacres of Dalits, like Bathani Tola, Lakshmanpur Bathe, Sundru in Andhra Pradesh. Similarly, there have been several suicides by Dalit students. But none of these are actually, you know, the culprits are never brought to justice. And problems are always individualized. But it's not, it's actually a structural problem, and we need structural solutions to this, as you correctly pointed out. Unless, you know, the perpetrators in one case are punished, another case will happen. That is the kind of, I mean, the fact that there is effective immunity for all these Dalit massacres leads to other Dalit massacres, is what I would say. I mean, over the past 2-3 weeks, at least 3 of our Dalit leaders in Bihar have been killed, and today there was a protest at Bihar Bhavan. There has been a lathi charge on them. So this is how the government reacts. I mean, while we were protesting for fellowships, like there was not so much, you know, we could sit outside the MHRD and protest, but in the Rohit Vemula movement, we were not even allowed to sit outside the MHRD. You know, and we are holding the MHRD responsible. We are saying that Bandaru Dattatreya, the Labour Minister, Smriti Irani, Appa Rao, all these people should actually be, you know, they should be charged under the SC/ST Act, and they should be punished. To set an example, you know, to say that Dalit lives also matter.
If I look at social media, there are 1 or 2 instances where they are saying for the removal of the quota system in India, because there are many instances where people belonging to the general category are socially or economically not affluent people, and hence their children are being cut off because of the 60% or 80% reservation in higher education. So there's a push, there's a constant push. So how do you deal with that? Because there's a large chunk of that kind of youth coming out in India too, and they too are frustrated.
3 main things. Even if the reservation goes, will there be enough opportunities for general category people? No, because the government is cutting down on funds. The government is closing down universities. In Bombay University, there's been a 50% fund cut. In JNU, despite ranking it as the best university, they are actively doing fund cuts. They're not building hostels. They're ending journal subscriptions in the library. All this, this sort of mindless budget cuts are happening. And what we should press for, I mean, when we talk about the general category people who are poor, definitely they are an important part of our population. But what is the solution? Is the solution anti-reservation? No. The solution is that there should be jobs, that there should be employment, there should be education, there should be affordable education for everyone. But that the government is not doing. They are raising fees like anything. They are giving sanctions to private universities. They are now bringing in foreign universities. This will just, where will it push those general category people? I mean, in the private universities, you have no reservation. How many poor general category students can go to the private universities where there is no reservation? They can't go because the fees are so high. Second thing, reservation is not a, it's not a poverty alleviation measure. It's a guarantee against discrimination. And we see discrimination, we see active discrimination. Their seats are kept empty. You don't have Dalit vice chancellors, you don't have Dalit heads of department. There's active discrimination happening against them, and many people have shown this in their research, most notably Thorat. And in the private sector, they have tremendous sort of discrimination going on against them. I mean, and the third thing, yeah, I would also want the quota system to go, but for that, I mean, we need to have a casteless society. But do we have a casteless society? We don't. You still have people like Madhu Mishra, who is a BJP leader. What did she recently say कि अभी ये लोग कल तक हमारा जूता साफ करते थे, आज रिजर्वेशन की वजह से हमारे सर पे बैठे हुए हैं. These kind of statements are rampant.
What do you make of the youth protests going on in Kashmir for the last few days? And do you see the left making inroads? Because Kashmir has traditionally been split between PDP and National Congress, and the people's aspirations, the problems have been going on for the last 50 years, 60 years.
You're very right. I think you've answered the question yourself in a way, because this is something we often told that there is peace in Kashmir. Okay, now the army has come, the army will do a flag march, there will be peace. But this peace is actually very fragile, because beneath this sort of this militarized peace, there's tremendous amount of brewing anger, and the whole trouble is that government of India is not serious about Kashmir problem. It's not Kashmir which is the problem. India is the problem, because India is doing all these atrocities there, justifying in the name of Armed Forces Special Power Act, doing fake encounters, having tolerance for rapes and all of that. That's not how we bring anyone closer to the center. No matter how the government wants to convince itself that it is doing some great job for national integration, I'm sorry, it's not. The Indian and the Pakistani governments, they're equally complacent about all of this. No one is really serious. They meet each other in the top hotels of Delhi, and there is absolutely no consideration for what the Kashmiris are saying. I mean, they are treated as agency-less people. That is not going to solve anything. I mean, that is just going to make matters worse. And probably it just suits the Indian government to have it that way, to say that there is a law and order situation. Oh, that is why we did firing. It probably suits the government to continue its military presence there.